everybody. I am Rhonda Kelly with eXp Realty, and this is my good friend Alexandra Lysik.
Hi!
With Cavik Insurance, and we wanted to come to you today to help answer your questions and tell you things you need to know.
Absolutely.
Getting into this hurricane season, really my heart just goes out to everybody who's had such a hard year and is still going through things in the community, as well as Alexandra feels the same way. And so we wanted to come to you today and just give you a heads up on maybe some things you wish you knew about, questions you wish you had asked, especially to this lady who knows it all. She has been serving our community for 3 years with flood insurance with Cavik. She's also local and knows many great things that can be very helpful to you. So, without further ado,
Hello, everybody!
I wanted to start and just ask you, first of all, let's break it down to flood zones.
Okay.
What do people need to know about flood zones? What are they?
So everyone's in a flood zone, no matter what part of the country you are in or what coastal county you're in. Everyone's in a flood zone. They range from flood zones of X, which is not where your lender's not going to require that you carry it with that new purchase home, or you're in a VE or an AE zone. Those zones are going to be your waterfront, your coastal areas, your higher flooding areas, and they're going to require an elevation certificate to get that price.
And those are all fun things that you can ask this lady right here a little bit more about. So let's talk about flood insurance then.
Okay.
What is flood insurance and how does that connect to these flood zones?
So flood insurance is going to cover the peril. All policies are covered on perils of coverage. So it's the peril of rising water. So if you go into your home that's been flooded and the water line is near your feet versus near your head, it's going to be more of a flooding claim.
Gotcha.
So it's that rushing in of the water into your home that's not coming from the sky. So that's where flood insurance is going to be covered, and it's excluded from your homeowner's policy. So your wind and hail policy is not going to cover that peril of rising water or flooding.
Awesome, awesome. And of course, a lot of people like to shop around for things, myself included.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I heard a lot of horror stories this past year about people who shopped around and they were trying to find the best price and unfortunately didn't have a great agent like Alexandra to be able to explain the loopholes and all the different questions that are really important to ask and know about their policy.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk to homeowners, as I mentioned, homeowners policies are going to exclude flood insurance. So we definitely want to talk about flood insurance. You can choose not to purchase it, again, if you're not in that AE or VE zone, but I'm going to 100% every time recommend it. When it comes to the policy itself, there's going to be certain factors that go into the rate of your policy. Where it is, how old it is, how big it is, and the biggest one is the occupancy. We have a lot of investment properties here that people rent out. We want to make sure that's properly covered because oh my gosh, during a claim time, if it's incorrect, there's gonna be some issues. So having an agent that you can call, like me, to talk through those questions and make sure that we're accurately rating you is gonna be very important to stave off any issues during claims.
So that makes me think of a couple questions actually.
Yeah.
Let's talk about deductibles and things like that.
Okay.
How can they be best prepared? Obviously, you can set them up with the best policy, but there are some steps they want to put in place before they end up in this crisis.
Oh, absolutely.
What would you say to them about that?
So the first thing I'll address is the deductible. A deductible is what a homeowner or the person who owns the home is going to pay for their damage before the carrier pays. So if you have a $2,500 deductible, that's your responsibility before the carrier says, okay, any damage over $2,500 we'll cover during this process. So when it comes to the deductibles, what can you mostly common afford at a time of crisis? I always ask my clients if they want a high deductible like a $4,000 or a $5,000 deductible, do they have that kind of cash on hand? Because that's going to not be included in that final check from your claim. Or are you more of the type that has, a little cash on hand and you would rather have that low deductible and that higher premium built into your escrow? That's going to be an individual decision. So that's where we have to ask those right questions and make sure that they're comfortable with the level of deductible that they've chosen and that during the hurricane time they can actually afford it and they're not in a position where they can't get their home repaired because their deductible is too high.
Exactly. And another thing to keep in mind, like we've talked about before too, is a lot of people had to evacuate and they weren't planning on that. So there's a couple weeks of expenses if you don't have a family member to go to and you have, I don't know, an extra $2,000 or $3,000 just in living once you evacuated. Keep that in mind too. So all those things come into play. So
So I'm gonna stop you there and just address that real quick, because that's called loss of use, actually. So if you guys are ever looking at your homeowner's policy and you see that loss of use or loss of rents coverage, that's actually built into the policy, and it's actually going to cover the home during the loss of use if the home is unlivable. So if you have evacuated for a few weeks and you went to Raleigh, for example, and you come home and your home is perfectly intact, then we're not going to pay for the loss of use from the home, because the home that we're insuring is not damaged.
Sure.
But if you come home and you're like, Alexandra, there's a tree in the middle of my roof and I'm not sure what to do, that's probably going to deem the home unlivable. So we're going to be able to pay for you while the home is being rebuilt to go live somewhere else while that home process is occurring.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, I don't know. It feels like the common sense is the whole, we live by the coast, maybe we get more flood issues. I mean, talk to me about, is this a nationwide thing? Is this a local thing?
Absolutely. It's a nationwide thing. The biggest misnomer I hear is that you're not in a flood zone, which is absolutely 100% incorrect. Everyone is in a flood zone. And the reason I'm so adamant about flood insurance is because 26% of people who are not in the flood zone apply for FEMA flooding payments during a natural disaster. That's out of 100%. A quarter of them are people that are not supposed to be in the flood zone, and they get flooded. That's a huge statistic to me, and I'm sure it is to you too, Rhonda.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that we're addressing that together. And the other thing is too with flood insurance is that if you don't purchase at the time of closing, there's going to be a 30-day wait period applied from the time we take payment. So let's say, for example, you closed on July 1st, and you decide not to purchase flood insurance, and then on August 15th you call me and want to purchase flood insurance. Actually, your policy wouldn't be effective until you gave me the payment for that policy, and the policy was a 30-day waiting period. So your policy technically wouldn't be in place until September 15th.
That is excellent to know, because there's another fun thing called naming storms. So we're in hurricane season right now, July through October.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that, the whole once a storm's named, how that affects you being able to get your flood insurance.
So the named storms actually has nothing to do with flood insurance. That actually has to do with, they have that natural 30-day waiting period applied.
Gotcha.
So that's how they kind of keep off from people wanting to purchase FEMA flood insurance like the week before the hurricane. But the naming storms is going to apply to your wind and hail policy or your homeowners.
Good to know.
So if you're purchasing a home and you're in a coastal county and we are closing in a week, for example, but the hurricane is also going to hit us in a week. So if the carrier has gone over what's called named storm, the box is closing. So that means we can no longer offer homeowners or wind and hail coverage. Then we want to make sure during that hurricane season you're binding those policies ahead of time, so that way we don't get 2 weeks from closing and we can't offer coverage.
I got it. That's why she's the girl right here,
Yeah,
guys.
we want to be on top of everything. So communication, I always tell my realtors and my referral partners, communication between me and my clients is my utmost number one thing that I'm concerned with, because I want you to feel comfortable. This is probably the biggest asset you're ever going to purchase. I don't want you to feel so upset because you can't afford your claim, you didn't have flood insurance and you're flooded, no one's even talked to you about it, and no one's even addressed what you're going to be responsible for when the claim occurs. Those are important things that a homeowner needs to be aware of. So that communication and having an agent that you can call and talk to, like me or someone in my agency, is really important to us, and it's important to the client as well.
Absolutely. And let's just talk about affordability just a little bit.
Okay.
Because I don't think people realize, 26% of people not in flood zones are needing insurance. I mean, what are we talking about a year?
So if you go through FEMA, it's going to be, the federal mandated program allows for a maximum of $250,000 in dwelling and $100,000 in contents, and then it's a $2,500 deductible if you have a damage to both the building and the contents. If you're on a slab, that premium is going to be about $482 a year. If you're on a crawl space, it's going to be about $534 a year. So it's super reasonable, and it's going to be so worth it when you have a flood claim.
Exactly, which is why we really wanted to take a minute and talk to you guys about it.
Absolutely.
Neither one of us are about sales or this or that, and that's our focus. Our focus is the community and you guys, and we serve you in what we do. And so thank you guys for listening. If you have any questions, She's going to give you her contact information right quick in just a minute. And then, as always, too, realtor-wise, if you have any real estate questions for me, too, especially how things have been going since our hurricane last year, or maybe you're looking into this new season, definitely don't hesitate to send us a message.
Yeah, you can reach myself, Alexandra Lysik. Our office number is 910-722-3225. Or you can reach me on my cell phone, which is 910-398-1044. I'd love to talk to you about any questions you have about your homeowner's insurance or flood insurance and just kind of walk you through that process.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And as always, you know, I'm Rhonda at coasthomewilmington.com, 803-260-2853. Have an awesome rest of your day, guys.
Thanks, Rhonda. Have a good day.